Good evening and welcome to this special IslandStats.com and Sports Inside and Out show. I'm your host, Earl Based, and joining me is my co-host in Sports Inside and Out, Coach Hatcher. We are joined by the legendary Billy Joe Dupree from the Dallas Cowboys, as well as Dr. Stephen Cummings. We are reading another doctor as well. But tonight we're going to be talking about recovery from injury. We're going to talk about how we can help current athletes, past athletes, and the like. Coach, what are you anticipating on hearing tonight, especially from Dr. Cummings?
Well, being one of Dr. Cummings' patients, man, excuse me, I know the value and the importance of really staying on top of what is diagnosed and what is prescribed to be able to do when it comes to the body. And I'm talking about bones and things of that, joints and things, not just with the circulatory and all that kind of stuff, which is important to me, no question. But Doc saved my life. I was in a terrible situation a few years ago, and of course, I am still have a lot of the effects of it, but Doc came and did something that's miraculous for me because I almost died. I was to that point, and he did such a great and intensive job, full of caring and things of that nature. Man, he really brought me from the edge to a point that I really understand the necessity of still being adhered to the things that's going on with your body, particularly when you talk about bones, joints, and things of that nature. But not only that, he's also very, very dedicated to to giving advice and counseling those who make an impact through sports or whatever, how to be able to do the things that can elongate and make their lives a more, what you call a pleasurable and more valuable entity thing to be able to do. And I mean, this guy's a whiz. And plus, you can believe that he's very, very sports-minded. He does a lot. This skiing thing he's into, that's a little out there. But I am very much, I admire him a lot because of his loyalty to clients, his loyalty to patients, and the things he advised to do is from the heart. That's basically Doc, and what can I say about Billy Joe? I've been knowing him too long. He is truly one of the greatest, not only the greatest tight end in Michigan State history, he's the greatest tight end in Cowboy history. He's NFL, what we call, I think, an NFL Man of the Year, like Walter Payton was. I mean, he is what he is, and an Iron Man on top of it, Doc. I think you'll be happy to know this guy played his whole career and never missed a game. Now that is a real thing to be admired, and I think Too Tall Jones was his teammate, was the other. So it's very interesting to be able to be here with the guys, and all we want to do is make sure that all the legends who are a member of our cadre and our what you call montage, they have the best opportunity, and their families, to have the advice of guys who really care about the quality of life. And with Doc and his team, yeah, that is true. So we're gonna open up a kind of a thing, Earl, that Bermuda and the basis of the other viewers that we have in and around the world, I should say, they will really have somebody to be able to communicate with and ask the questions as necessary, some that they don't want to necessarily ask anybody else. So
Sure.
we're gonna make these positions, these monsters of the table,
Mhm.
more accessible not only to the legends, people who help make the game of sports, but also to those who are fans of the game as well.
Mm. Well, let me quickly get into Mr. Dupree, because Coach said you never missed a game in in your career. Longevity. How does that affect now? Being that we have these positions on, how does that affect? And I want to say welcome to Dr. Workman, who has joined us as well. But Mr. Dupree, talk about what it's like now, going through never missing a game.
Well, at this point, this stage of my life, I have not had any serious altercations other than communicable diseases of that type. Um, and I guess the most severe situation I've encountered was about 4 years ago. I had to have stents put in, and as the doctor explained it to me, we got to do that because you're having a heart attack, son. So okay, so that's about the extent of my health issues. I've been really pretty healthy, and for your information, guys, I will be 73 this year.
Oh, wow.
And of all those 73 years, I have only been admitted to the hospital 3 times that I can recall. Once as a kid, once as a player, and then when I retired to have those stents put in. Other than that, I've been fairly healthy. But that's an individual thing, and every guy and most guys don't have that type of situation, or wasn't blessed with the I guess the health and the guidance that I experienced over the course of my career. There's a few guys out there, and the other guy that I can think of with the Cowboys outside of Ed was Cornell Green. And Cornell Green was one of those other guys who never missed a game, and he played for 2 or 3 years longer than I did.
Oh, wow, that's remarkable. I mean, Dr. Cummins, when you start hearing that in a sport like the NFL, it's kind of remarkable that someone can play that long and not miss a game.
And let me interject this while you mention that before you Dr. Skierley. The fact is that you seem to have more injuries with less contact, less violent contact, as they refer to it, than they did before.
Yeah.
And guys, in my opinion, and what I see and how they work and their work habits, they practice literally, from what I've seen, they play like they practice, not practice like they're supposed to play. Meaning that when they practice, it's a dance. It's a waltz. All right. Without that situation, you move into the aggressive part of it. Now it gets to be a wrestling match. You got to defend yourself. Right. But I believe that at this point in time, with all the contact rules that they put in place, it really has helped guys, but it's kind of made them a little bit more vulnerable to the extent that they don't have. Now they don't have that conditioning for contact. And I say conditioning for contact to the extent, if you're only dancing in practice, and on Sunday when that whistle blows, now the dance is over. This is a wrestling match now. So you have to be more physical than you are trying to do a waltz. And it seems like guys are trying to play more basketball just by using picks for running backs and moving guys. Maybe even a minimum of 1 yard past the line of scrimmage gives that running back an opportunity to do great things, and the quarterback an opportunity to see what's going on downfield. So in saying all that, I think the physical aspects of it have been minimized, and the technique for contact in the game may not have been as well defined in the earlier years, because it was one of those situations. What we're gonna do is hit the guy, knock him down, any way you can. Well, now we got a situation where we have to deal with injuries to try to keep guys healthier once they leave and their term expires in the NFL. So hopefully, guys as doctors and players will kind of have all that put together here, but it will be a little bit after my timeline from that standpoint. And also, and it's my personal opinion, and I get to be a little opinionated every so often, is that I think once you start adding, multiple zeros behind that one, and you got to think about it. Some guys take it as a serious deal that, hey, I got to earn this money. The other guys say, well, I don't have to do anything. I just, hey, I'm getting paid. I already got paid. So I just need to show up, dress and show up. No, guys seem to not have taken as much pride in doing their job as they paid to do it. If they paid you that kind of money, because when I was playing, you guys would have a hard time trying to find me someplace in the world. But as it stands, the guys seem to be just a little bit taken for granted too many things. Because when you get on that field, guys don't have any mercy. They don't have any sympathy. Even though they may tell you before the game, well, we're not going to do this. But once you put that uniform on, you're a whole different person. And I give you a good example. Kenny Houston and linebacker of Chicago, can't think of his name right now, they were some of the toughest guys on the field. They put that uniform on. Off the field, they are some of the most devout Christians that you'll ever meet in life. But once they put that uniform on, personality changes. And that seems to not being correlated into what guys need to have to prepare themselves for on a Sunday afternoon. Because Sunday afternoon is live. Practice is show.
You talk about Singletary, Billy?
Yeah, Mike Singletary, and I serve on the board with Mike. Mike is one of the most gentle guys you ever want to meet.
He's sweet. Yeah, too sweet. I mean, guys take it for granted.
Yeah. You put that uniform on him, and you better step aside. And Kenny Houston was the same way. Kenny didn't have any problems being extremely physical with you on the football field. But once the game was over, he said, hey, okay, I hope God bless you. And hey, he did okay. And he was a real upstanding type of individual, real upfront guy. So those two guys along is a good example of the attitude change from one arena to the other.
So Doc, just talking about that, the injuries. I mean, Mr. Dupree has talked about it. You see a lot more injuries, in the NFL now. Give us your take on just some of the things that have come across you that kind of concerns or you have to work a little harder to kind of put them back on the field.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors. Whenever I hear about a guy like Billy and he never missed a game, and sometimes along that you'll hear, oh, he never got hurt. I'm like, I know the guy got hurt. He just still played.
Yeah, Doc, and let me interrupt you 1 minute. The two major injuries I had the webbing split in my right hand in the middle part of it right here. And I had a hyperextension in my left leg after trying to block a guy or intended to block a guy, and he intended hitting and blocking me and pushed me back and pinned my left knee underneath it, which hyperextended everything. Those are the only two injuries I've had that slowed me down, but it didn't keep me off the field.
Did you miss a play when you hyperextended your knee for the rest of the game?
Yeah. I mean, I finished the game, and they made that examination in the training room when we were getting ready to go to the house.
Yeah.
Wow. Things have changed nowadays. Yeah, things have changed nowadays because they take you right off the field and do an evaluation and then say, oh, well, Dupree will not return for the rest of the game. The game has changed.
No, you had too many guys during that timeline. Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. I need to get the game. I need to get the game. And you didn't find one guy that says, hey, I want to be on the sideline. Every last one. Face to the coach as well as the quarterback.
Sure. Let me bring Dr. Workman into the conversation. Dr. Workman, thank you for joining us this evening. Let's talk a little bit about your background and what it is that you particularly do.
Oh, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, excellent. So thanks for having me. I'm enjoying all the conversation so far. So I'm from Tennessee. I grew up in Tennessee, did some training in Pennsylvania, and now I'm an orthopedic surgeon practicing here in Williamsburg with Dr. Cummings, and excited to be on the podcast with you. My question to you, Mr. Dupree, which I'm delighted to be here, part of it, the conversation. We talk about injuries, but how do you think that, or maybe some of the other people on the panel know, but how has padding come into play over the last couple of years in the NFL? Do you guys have any comments on that? Because
how did what? I didn't hear that part.
The padding in the helmet.
Oh, the padding in the helmets.
Yeah.
Oh, I would suspect that's been a tremendous help for them. And we barely had tissue paper in our helmets when we played.
I believe that.
And I think they've done a great job with redesigning those helmets to try to cushion that blow from having that brain rattle around a lot. The helmets we wore, they had a few straps inside, and then a little pad so it won't bounce your head off the top of the deal, and ear pads. But that was about the extent of it. Now, first, and then as the later years and the years when I retired, then they added more padding to it because now we're starting to get some more interest in a sense from injuries and those type of injuries. But when you start this game as a kid, it's the techniques that they teach you that allows you to have that longevity. Mm-hmm. And obviously some guys have not been properly taught on techniques. Well, you would never, your neck is fragile. You would never hit a guy head on with gathering up a fair amount of speed. Okay, well, something's got to give. But on the other hand, your shoulder is flexible. That can kind of take that blow, and you can survive that whole process. But your head, that's one of those things that the guys get their necks broken and have separate vertebrae and have back problems all on a regular basis. The worst that could happen to you on the other side is to get your shoulder knocked out of socket. Well, that just pops right back in. So from that standpoint, the guys have the padding and all the additional stuff that they've added to the uniform, I think really helps the guys, particularly around that head injury area.
Sure. Well, Dr. Cummings and Dr. Workman, let me ask you, because you guys are in a field where you not just work on athletes, but primarily you see a lot of athletes come through your doors. What sports were you involved in prior to you, or even still doing now that kind of you do to take your mind off of work at times?
Well, I'll go first. I grew up playing soccer, basketball, baseball, and I had dreams of playing Division III basketball, and that didn't work out, so I played rugby in college, just the club team. But I often wonder, these football players, they don't know how to tackle. You got to go with the shoulder, hit him in the thigh. Earl, you got rugby there. I saw your promo. Is that a thing in Bermuda?
Yes, it's big here. Yeah,
it's a different technique. I think sometimes the padding makes these guys feel invincible, and the helmet's hard. It makes them feel invincible, and then they're using they can get away with bad form because the padding protects them.
Right.
But then they still have bad form.
Yeah. Rugby, you can't have bad form. You've got to tackle. You got one chance at it.
Doc, you look pretty healthy to having to go through a rugby.
Yeah, well, 4 years was enough. I didn't play any men's leagues. It would
I
have
would
taken me
much
out.
prefer to play football than rugby.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Workman?
Yeah, on my side, I played Division III soccer for 3 years, and it was great. And they tried to recruit me my last year to the rugby team. So, but I heard about the stories, and I wasn't strong enough to head it up. So I got into some endurance athlete, kind of athletics. Started doing some marathon running and some long distance, cycling. But soccer has always been kind of my my forte, but basketball a little bit. But that's kind of how I grew up.
Sure. Well, let me ask you, both of you again, what influence has sports been on your medical career? Being someone who has played sports, you probably had a rolled ankle, you probably had a, pulled muscle here and there. But what has sports been the influence on your medical careers? And you can go first this time, Dr. Workman.
Go ahead, Dr. Workman.
Oh yeah, well, that's actually how I got into orthopedics from the beginning. I had so many friends that doing athletics since I was 9, 10, having knee issues, hip issues, and seeing injuries, ACL injuries. And then I got very interested in how people recovered and the surgeries that were involved. And even in high school, I started actually going to the OR with some surgeons just to see like how are people being put together again. It's just mind boggling. And that's what really, really, intrigued me to get into what I'm doing right now. And so kudos to everybody that, to my friends and family that supported me at that stage. And, going to college and then beyond into medical school, it was just further, pretty much confirmed in my mind that I just wanted to be in the realm of orthopedics and sports injuries, because it's just, you have motivated patients and we have such good techniques to get people back very quickly. And it's just exciting, and I think Dr. Cummings would probably comment further too.
Sure.
Well, I'm a failed attempted professional athlete, so I had to do something else. I had a dream. I was going to be in the NBA. But I had to realize that I wasn't good enough, so I had to get a real job. But I always wanted to be a pediatrician growing up. If that was my fallback, if basketball didn't work out. Pretty quickly, I knew basketball wasn't going to work out. But then I had a good friend in medical school who was an orthopedic. His dad was an orthopedic surgeon, and he said, no, orthopedics is where it's at. So it took me a few years to come around. But then I don't know, orthopedics found me or I found orthopedics. But I would certainly say playing sports helps you be a better person.
Yeah.
And it helps you be a better whatever you are in life. If you can be a part of a team, if you can push yourself to physical limits, those are good qualities to have. And I think, when it comes to, sports in society, it's really just an important thing, getting communities together at young ages. And then, of course, we love the entertainment, seeing the great Billy Dupree's and the best people do it. But I learned a lot from sports. It's a big part of my life. And I think that it helped ingrain in me certain qualities that really are helpful today.
Coach, just listening to Dr. Cummings, when you would have first met him, how comfortable did he make you feel right away? Because he seems like he's a high energy type of doctor, and pretty much his team's probably the same way.
Yeah, he's very, very unusual. I think the orthopedic surgeons who have sports backgrounds become better orthopedic surgeons because they know what it took for a guy to get in front of them. So when I first met him, it was almost like an instant thing. I was in a bad place. My surgery went wrong. I had MRSA. Oh my gracious, man! It took me 3 years. My wife was here 3 years, and all the hip replacements and spacers and the bad situations that I had to go with on the post situations of it. He stood right there with me. I mean, he was out there. I called him twice in one day because my hip kept falling out of place. Man, I couldn't even get the thing in there. But this guy came all the way from his home, about an hour or so away, and took that time to show me and my wife what to do and the things that it took to get to where I am, where I was going. And after the surgery, I mean, this guy was relentless. We fell in love with him. Matter of fact, his story is all over the place, man. It's in Texas, it's in New York and Philadelphia, of course, in Virginia. I talk about Doc so much, and any peer of his is a member of the team as well. And Earl, I'm gonna tell you point blank, I mean, you're gonna meet him one day. I mean, no question, because what he offers is something that's more personable and more dear. He has a tremendous spirit about it, man, you know. And my wife thinks he's a surrogate son or something. Yeah, and as you can see, both of them are probably just as younger looking as anybody, man. He's great to me, and we look forward to a great career in assisting and bringing out information that him and his partners and his peers they can do, because it's well needed. Earl, is well needed.
Oh, yeah.
Kids aren't learning anything. The IQ of these kids in football and basketball now is almost a -0. They don't know how to play. They don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know how to be a part of something bigger than them. Yeah.
Doc, let me ask you, because Coach mentioned hip replacement kept coming out and so forth.
Sure.
I had a hip replacement about 26 to 27 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is the long rod that goes down your thigh and so forth and so forth. What's the replacement for that?
Well, sometimes, you go in there, there's a ball and there's a socket, and then you have the piece in the femur. Sometimes after so many years, the darn things have last longer than we ever thought they would, and you never have to go back in.
Right.
So they probably told you, hey, 12 years, you'll probably need more surgery, and here you are. So hopefully.
But it is starting to irritate now. It is starting to irritate.
Sometimes the plastic liner wears out, and all it needs to be done is you just go in, put a new piece of plastic, put maybe a new ball on top, just change those moving parts, and that's all that needs to be done. In certain situations, we do have to go take implants out of the bone, and sometimes that's easy, and sometimes it's a bit of work to cut the bone to get it out. So without getting too gruesome, sometimes we're in there for a few hours working away at that bone, trying to be careful, and we have to break it, but break it in a controlled fashion so we can put it back together.
Sure. Now let me ask you, because both you and Dr. Weckman have said, it's an honor to be on with Mr. Dupree. When you get these athletes or superstars that come through your door, first you're a fan, and you have to fix. How do you control? Because some people are so overwhelmed as a fan of someone. How do you make sure that you're focused on what you need to do to help the athlete?
Oh, sure. I can comment on that. We treat every patient just like they're the biggest star, every day, everybody they're the biggest star. But of course, Mr. Dupree, I'm very honored to be on this podcast with you and with everybody here. But everybody's a star in our eyes, and both Dr. Cummings and I actually had an opportunity to train down in Florida, where there's a lot of people that retired from the NFL. So we're really, we're used to seeing some of those big players and big sockets and big implants that we need to do and replace. But we're just so delighted to be a part of this. And, you know, you guys come find us whenever you need anything done. I will say that.
Sure. I'm going to go back to because throughout your career, you have seen many of your teammates, many of your opponents suffer some horrific injuries because, as you mentioned before, lack of equipment. What would you consider one of the toughest injuries you've seen from one of your teammates or from an opponent?
Oh, that's a tough question because I've kind of shied away from those type of things. I know you're hurt, but I don't want to see what kind of hurt you have right now. I'll let the doctor tell me about it. Well, I really never really noticed or evaluated from that perspective. Because my philosophy with dealing with anything and everything, in particular sports, is that if I got a job to do, then I don't need anything to interrupt that concentration on getting that job done. When I get that job done, then we can work on the next one. And all this is not days or weeks. This is split-second decisions that one has to make on a regular basis. And sometimes they work out, and other times they come to a stalemate.
Mm. Well, let me ask you, Dr. Cummings, who would you consider as your favorite sports legend?
My favorite sports legend?
Yeah.
Say Billy Joe Dupree.
Present company included or excluded here?
Go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry.
so young. You retired before I was watching sports. It's a little cliche, but I was born in Chicago. We moved when I was 4 years old to New Jersey, but my brothers are older than me, so they brought the Chicago fandom. So I was a big Michael Jordan fan. We had all those playoff games on VHS tape, and every time I was sick from school, it was either daytime television or I was watching Michael Jordan play basketball on the VHS tapes. And that I was never watching daytime television. So
that takes me out the game, man, if it was Mike.
What about you, Dr. Workman? Who would you say is your favorite legend?
Well, I mean, I have to jump on the bandwagon of Mr. Dupree here. I will say I grew up, and there's multiple pictures of me just laying on a blanket of the Dallas Cowboys. So Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. I will agree with Dr. Cummings. Jordan obviously is a hometown favorite of ours because my wife is from Wilmington and he still owns all the McDonald's there. So, but yeah. I mean, I love all those players, and obviously getting back to the soccer side, Tim Howard, just great players, very influential.
Sure. Now, Coach, you were talking earlier about having players. Just trying to get that. Having some of the legends understand, about what they need to do to ensure that they can get the help needed. From Dr. Cummings and from Dr. Workman, or wherever they are. What's some of the things you really want these legends to know about these two gentlemen and the work that they do?
Well, first of all, it's not going to be an easy sell. We hear a lot. So many guys, and Billy knows the same thing. Every day you hear about somebody leaving us. You hear about the trials and tribulations of guys who didn't have a great what you call healthy career, that may be able to come back to do things that what we want to do and what we will do. We're going to have them to be the voice of the legends of sports, the medical doctors of the legends of sports, the medical consultants, more or less. Not only just for the premier scores of sports like football, basketball, NBA ball here, but we want all of our fans around the world who pay attention to the David Bascom's, and the guys of that nature who has so much to give. And all it is listening to those that have the wisdom to tell you the right things to be able to do and adhere. And one thing that a good a player or a guy who's been successful at his we call it his job is being able to listen to those that can help him. I don't find too many guys that will not listen to a young face like these two guys. I mean, come on, man. You know, you coming over to it, you act like, you know, these guys are something that they can communicate with. They have a great aura about them. They have a great a way to express the need in a way that guys can feel comfortable to listen to them. So it will not be an effort, Earl, because even with you, the amount of information you just got today, I think you feel a little bit more peaceful with what your situation is.
Yes, sir.
And having somebody to what? Tell you. So we got something now. I think we're going to nurture. We're going to be a better a portion of the well-rounded information that we can give the legends of sports from their times that they were on the field or court to what they're doing now, because they're sharing that same situation with someone else. So, you know, guys, I mean, a ton of guys, Kramer, Billy Joe's peers at the Green Bay Packers. I mean, these guys were toe up and still are in a situation that they could need advice, and don't think they won't ask. But you know how we do, Billy, the fraternity of ex-professionals, we always keep it between the cats before we go too far out to ask for it. So, you know, it's a each one help one type of situation with what we intend on doing. And I think it's going to be a fantastic addition. Earl, I'm going to tell you point blank what I think. Once a month, I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for our fans here in the States and in the range of Bermuda sports in the Caribbean and in England and on, to be able to share this with those that will express what they do, because when legends listen, everybody listens. So speak. So I think it's going to be a fantastic. I think welcome to the team.
Sure.
Welcome to the team, guys. And
well, let me ask. I'm going to ask the docs a question as well, because with the improvement of technology and the joints and everything, can someone have kind of a full knee replacement and come back to play some level of sport? I know it wouldn't be in the professional world, but some level of sport without much discomfort.
We see players. We see the kind of the weekend warrior, or just the person who has an active sport heavy lifestyle, get back to tennis, get back to cycling, get back to walking. You know, we're torn as orthopedic surgeons whether we recommend running on joint replacements, but whether we say it or not, we have people running 5Ks, marathons with hip replacements, knee replacements. So the technology gets better, but if you see a few problems, you're tentative to push the limits, but you're going to have patients on occasion who will push the limits, and the technology keeps getting better. So it's really exciting to have people come to the office and they say, hey, I couldn't do this for years, and now I can get back to this. And really it's part about the sports, part about the relationships they can keep having, because I can still play golf. I can still hang out with my golf buddies. I can still play pickleball. So it's really, it's exciting to see people stay active, and we get to be a part of that.
Yeah, let me quickly ask, good. You want to say something, Dr. Watson?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to second Dr. Cummings' excellent response. I will say that the low-impact sports I totally promote: cycling, elliptical running, rowing, swimming. But, I mean, you can get back to your hiking and daily activities. I mean, but, you know, it's something to consider long-term. But you could get back to what you want to do, and that's what we're here for. So
Sure. Well, let me ask Mr. Dupree, because he said he had the webbing split in his hand. How long did you have to get stitches, and how did you protect that hand the next time out?
I love telling this story. Well, first of all, I had the week before that, I had this left thumb fracture in this left thumb joint. And next week, Tom's changed the lineup, so he's moved the receivers around. Now I'm at a wide receiver and supposed to tight end, and the wide receiver's route was a running in route. Well, they designed that because he wanted to change the play where the wide receivers run the play without the tight end. But anyway, we drop back, Glenn Carano throws the ball, and I'm doing an in route, and Waters is in that path, but when the ball is thrown, he breaks for it, and I break for it at the same time. He tips the ball, and the tip of the ball goes through this webbing right here and splits this thing wide open. And so from that standpoint, I was doing okay until a trainer came out and asked me how I was doing, and they ended up forcing me to break 3 of Tom's major rules. One was, they want any cursing on the field. 2, the help never touches the ground. And 3, you don't leave the field until somebody tells you to. Well, that needs to say all that went to kite in the wind within 3 seconds. So, but those are the only things that I had, but having to work with this and practice with it, because, I'm kind of stubborn, maybe I'm a little crazy or not something of that nature, but I figured that once I was hired to do a job, that's the job I got to do. And I got to figure out how to do it when I'm asked to do it. But I'm not going to ask the coach, put me in the game, please. But when you're ready for me, I'll be ready to do whatever that needs to be done in order for us to advance this game to the win column. So we stayed with that tradition in a sense. But I can't really evaluate that whole situation to pinpoint something specific about it. But it's just difficult for me to explain that particular situation right now.
Sure. Yeah. Let me ask Dr. Workman. Dr. Workman, what's the recovery time for a joint hip replacement as opposed to a full hip replacement? When I say a full, meaning you gotta get what I have, the long rod and all that, or do you do that anymore? You burn those up?
We do definitely full joint replacements, pretty commonly, more so than just a half a hip replacement or a hip resurfacing. I will say everybody's journey is different. Okay. So big athletes like Mr. Dupree or Coach Haster or even yourself, being an athletic body that you are, you're a fit person. You get it back up. You're motivated. You have a great frame and you have good muscle tone. So you get back probably pretty quickly. But some people we see have been had hip arthritis and now they're in their 80s or something like that, and they're just their muscle tone is not as well as it should be. So those hip replacements are a little bit longer, or knee replacements, if you will. So everybody has a different story. So that's how I take it every single time I meet somebody. It's hard to say because everybody is like, well, what's my time frame? My time frame is, well, it's the time frame that you need, because we got to make sure you have a good recovery, you have a full recovery. But I have a sense of how long it could be, and we always have a conversation of that in the office. So, but maybe Dr. Cummings has, additional comments too, for sure.
Well, 25 years ago, how long were you in the hospital, Earl?
I got my operation the Monday before Easter, Good Friday. They said the only way you could go home is if I could walk upstairs. So operation Monday, home Thursday.
All right. And in those days, that was pretty quick. 3 days.
Oh yeah, because they
That
said
was you were
I was
showing
supposed to
them.
be in the hospital a whole week.
Right.
I wasn't supposed to actually put any weight on my leg until the actual day I went home, which was the
Yeah.
Thursday. But I forced myself out of bed on Wednesday morning. By Wednesday night, I was able to walk out to the nurse's desk. As long as I walked straight, I was able to put weight on it and make it out to the nurse's station. Bit lightheaded, but got back to the bed.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, I was begging them, and they said, "Well, we'll take you downstairs, but if you cannot walk up these 3 flights of stairs, you can't go home." So all night, I put in my head, I've got to get up these steps. Got to get up these steps. So yeah,
All
4
right.
days. Yeah.
So now more than half of our patients are going home the same day. And that's
wow.
a lot of that's advancements in our anesthesia. A lot of our patients, instead of getting general anesthesia, we're doing the spinal anesthesia, so just numb up the legs. So get some sedation, but trying to avoid that feel of getting sick that people used to often get more with general anesthesia. And the techniques have gotten better. You know, the incisions have gotten smaller. Now we're able to do particularly hip replacement without cutting the muscles, which was pretty common in the older days.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we see people get up and go pretty quickly. I tell people, you know, by 2 months, you'll be about 80%. By 3 months, about 90%. Still takes the better part of a year before you're 100%. I mean, you look at athletes with a single ligament surgery, they're not getting back to the field until 12 months. So there's that. But to get up and walk around without a cane or a walker, a lot of times a couple weeks. But it just takes time for the tissue to settle down. So it's been exciting, even in the time I've been doing it, to see it's really the time in the hospital keeps getting smaller, and the recovery just gets quicker. So
Yeah.
Sure, definitely. Let me ask.
Comment for Dr. Cummings. I mean, most of our patients, I feel like most of them go home the same day. I mean, at this point, so yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me go home right away. I had a major because I had back then they sliced right down the side of my leg in order to get the Rordian and of course now I have one leg longer than the other by a quarter of an inch because they were trying to knock the bottom end of the rod into the knee area and just didn't work out properly. But hey, I was able to. Funny enough, you said 8 months, 80%. I think 6 months later, I was playing soccer.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which was the stupidest thing I could have ever done, but I loved it, and I kept doing it. And it listen to the point where I said, you know what? Okay, I got to stop now because I found I was getting a lot of cramp in and around the area, I guess, because the muscle hadn't settled properly. Yeah. And to this day, I still get cramp in this one particular leg all the time around this rod that's in my leg. So that's another story. But let me ask you two docs. I mean, is there another medical topic you want to cover? I mean, because as Coach has said, this has opened up for legends to understand what is out there and available to them to make sure that they can live, comfortably after playing, their professional career.
Well, Coach and I have been talking about this for a little bit, and I've got a couple of friends who have some other perspectives. I have one friend who does, he did 2 fellowships, one in kind of pediatric sports and another one in pediatric and then just general sports. So, but he has a lot of interesting perspectives on kind of the psychology of sports, psychology of recovery, a little more geared towards the child athlete, but some really interesting work and even research he's done in that area. I have another friend in New York who I think we're going to be bringing on who also does a lot of kind of knee ligament surgery. Well, Dr. Workman and I are doing the replacement. So we usually get the athletes a little further down the line in their careers. These guys are getting more often the athletes in their careers and getting them back on the field. We're more the recreational sports surgeons. So,
Sure.
so I think we will have some good topics, and then we may even branch out and get out of orthopedics and even, hit urology or some of these other things that just good, get some good information out to people in a venue they may not expect to get something, but if you can get some good health information that does some good for some people, that could be really good.
Dr. Workman?
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and it's such a pleasure, and I hope that I get invited back. I will say, with the current, phenomena in life and with COVID and past COVID, I think we really need to look at how people's mentality is on going into surgery and how recovery affects that. I think that there is a lot of great outcomes with sports athletes because they want to get back to the field, right? They want to they're motivated. They want to get, quick recovery. But with Dr. Cummings and I, we deal with, a lot of people that have joint replacements, and they might come from a terrible background, or they've been struggling with their arthritis for a long time, and that has them in a different mentality. So there's a very big field of where mentality is in terms of recovery. Us as surgeons can do our best job, but it's a symbiotic relationship, and athletes are so great to work with because they're so motivated, and even ex-athletes, retired athletes, what have you. So that's why you guys have had great outcomes. And so I'm just, that's my plug, and that's my 2 cents on it. But very happy to be here, and thank you so much for having us to the show.
Not a problem at all. Coach, you have the legendary Billy Joe Dupree with us. You want to end for us?
Well, I can put it 2 ways. One of my oldest friends, and when we work with the professional ranks, and he's member of a group of professional football players that sacrifice their own selves to help the others in the league. You can't beat that. The Dallas Cowboy fan, and it is a family. We've been very close. I think, Billy, since we did that union thing to help get some money for the Cats in 1986 or something. I don't know what it was, but we did a lot to try to help and facilitate the game, not just in football, basketball as well. That's the type of legend that we will work with, and we're happy to be associated and call them friends. And of course, I'm looking, Earl, I can see great things. We were very happy to be named the #1 sports talk show for legends recently, now in the past as well. And now we have Bermuda Sports involved. Now we were very fortunate to get the rank, and we just added another 25,000 viewers. Now we up to 75,000 a week just streaming in. Well, probably more now. With Bermuda Sports, you're all over the place. The demographics is fantastic, not just from Europe or England over here, but you got a great demographic in the East Coast. So now we have an opportunity to really make a difference because the guys are seeking what you call the mortality information as well, how to live a better life. What we have here is something that's going to be very, very great. I think Billy can attest to this. Having these type of guys on your team or on your broadcast or content team is tremendous. Mm-hmm. So now, not just the fans, someone have people that they trust to call into to get information, not for themselves, their families, or otherwise, children or otherwise. I am extremely happy, Earl, to have your cooperation in bringing this joint venture to fruition of the great sports of Sports Inside and Out, Legends of Sports and Bermuda Sports, to have the like of Doc, Steve, and Mark. I think this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for people to really see and get the things they need from the people that they trust. Because like we said, legends are the most treasured thing around the world. We got to stand, from Muhammad Ali, who helped us with that whole day, to the point where we are now. when legends tell you something, you can pretty much take it to the bank if you got it in the right perspective. So I'll say once again, Doc, both of you guys, I can get a hold of you because me and my wife know where you at. But thank you so much for being a part of the team now, and spread the word, Earl. We got some doctors on the jank now that can take it and get the information from guys like Billy. As Howard Scassell told him on Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings, he caught a one-handed catch going down the sideline, and Howard Scassell said, "Now that is Billy Joe Dupree." So I can say one thing, man. Thanks a lot for letting me be the proxy and facilitator of the great legends of sports and facilitating the health of the guys as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.